Good morning, everybody. Thank you for listening. You're listening to Making Life Brighter Radio, and I'm your host, Winifred Adams. I just want to thank you so much for being with us today on this beautiful snowy day here in Idaho. And it is gorgeous out. We are having a blessing of crystalline energy that is blanketing us in quiet. And there's something to that quiet. This is the season to go within, be grateful, and find that inner stillness and all the energy. And today we have a very special show for you. We are going to be talking about how to actually assist at a soul level with a very special technique by a unique lady, and she has a tremendous story. So you're going to love this today. We're going to get into how you can transform any kind of emotional issues, any kind of legacy issues with your family lineage. And we're going to talk about why this is so effective and how it's helping people the world over. But first, I want to touch on last week's show. If you got to listen to last week's show, you got to tune in to the great opportunity that is happening. And you can go to makinglifebrighter.com on the main page there, and you can get more information by filling in your data, and someone will contact you about that special. There is another special that's happening around that data, because this is not just any cryptocurrency. This is actually lining up to be the next Bitcoin, and it is on fire right now. Why is that special? Because it's changing lives week by week by week with people right now. And what's happening is it's ending up helping people actually this season have not only a future, but they are getting out of debt. They're being able to help other people immediately. And this is not something that goes up and down, but rather it's just going up. So to get in on that, you can go and find out more information by listening to last week's show. There's a special this week as well. So if you missed out, there's a tremendous opportunity that's unlike anything else. And I stand testimony to that because I'm helping other people do that and working with them to find their way into a position of autonomy where it's been a little bit, let's say, harder for people at this juncture. Well, this is an answer to a prayer, and there are many intuitives that are coming on board saying there's something to that, and there is. So you can find out more. Go to makinglifebrighter.com and put in your info, and someone will contact you and share that with you. This season is really about love and gratitude. It's about taking that which is within and manifesting and welcoming that which is showing up in front of you on the without. But there is no without. It's actually within is what you see on the out. So what's coming into us right now is a shift in energy field, and we're going to get into that with our special guest today. We have this AI Atlas thing coming closer. Have you heard about this? I'm sure you have by now. And it is supposed to be retuning the core of the Earth. Maybe. They say it's on a different trajectory now, and this trajectory is actually lining up to be something that they might have an event about. And so what's really interesting is the UN recently put up a protocol in the last week for a worldwide protection thing. And Project Bluebeam just came online again. So, the jury's out on exactly what's happening, but we do know there's an up-leveling of energy, despite all the narratives of hurry up and prepare. So this is my reminder to you that this season, don't be fearful, get in tune. And that's our go jolly message. I want to just thank BP Machine up in Edmonton, Canada for sponsoring our show today. And you can have all your oil drilling tools at BP Machine. So you can check that out. Thank you, everyone that's listening and sharing. We're going to be talking about some special things as we go forward. We have lots of great shows upcoming in this season, but our biggest one is how to make it through this energy field, which many people are navigating at the moment as they offload all their lifetimes of things that are coming to a head. And that's where our special guest comes in today. And I can't wait to share this with you because it's a very healthy and happy, positive way to quickly alleviate any kind of conflict. So this woman is going to share her story with us. But first, I'd like to share with you what this is. It's called Court of Atonement, and it's a technique of resolving conflicts at the soul level. And it says here, because our souls exist in a realm without time or space, we can request our souls speak with each other beyond the constraints of human emotions. And for all the empaths and the healers that listen, and resolve the conflicts between them. But this particular technique is really interesting and very, very handy. So I would like to introduce to you today Amy Jo Ellis. She is the founder of Court of Atonement. Welcome, Amy Jo. Thank you for being on Making Life Brighter.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a great honor to be here with you today.
It's so nice to have your energy with us. So Court of Atonement is your baby. It's an answer to a download that you got. But let's jump into your story. How is it you came to know that you have this gift and the communion that you do with Spirit?
Okay, that kind of starts out like way back. Well, not way back, but I was probably in my 20s. And my parents went to, at the time, was Religious Science Church, but it's now the Spiritual Living Centers. And they had a dowsing class. And everybody had a paper clip and a string, and you had a list of 15 questions. And you paired up with another person that you had no idea what they were doing. And you asked yes or no questions and had the pendulum swing one way or the other, yes or no. And we asked these questions about each other. And I got 15 out of 15 questions right, which is like, does this person have a brother? Does this person's parents still alive? I mean, there were weird questions that I didn't know about the person. And I got 15 out of 15 right. Well, my husband is raised Christian and went to a Christian school, and he was very fearful of what it was that I was doing there. And he was like, please don't even go there. So I didn't continue with it. But then when I was in Puerto Rico, I was living on a tiny little island, which was 22 miles from the main island. And we had a nice little medical center there, but it wasn't very well established. And I had been really sick with like 105-degree fever for about 10 days. And I had read a book that was called Walking Through Walls, and it's the story of Lou Smith, and who's an energy healer. And he uses a pendulum to diagnose. Well, they couldn't find out what was wrong with me. And I got to thinking about that book, and I got to thinking about the pendulum on a clip when the 15 correct answers. And I thought, you know what? I can do that. I can diagnose this thing. I can do what he did. And so I got out a list of like body parts, just, what the organs are, and said, where is this infection? And it went to bladder. So I immediately called my doctor and said, what are the chances that it's about a bladder infection? And he's like, why? What symptoms do you have? Now, I didn't have any symptoms, and I certainly didn't want to say the pendulum told me. So I said, I burned a little. I think, yeah, it burned a little. I mean, I really didn't have a good answer for him. But he said, okay, we'll come in and we'll do a test. And so I had to go get on a ferry and go 22 miles with 105-degree fever. It wasn't really great, but the test came back that I had E. coli off the charts. And they were able to find it where they hadn't been able to find it. And within 3 days, I was better. But my husband's fears kind of subsided about what this was when I saved myself. This was like 10 years later, by the way.
So he didn't believe until he
really saw me. And so then I started with an alphabet chart, just a chart, and I started asking questions, and I would spell out the most remarkable things. And I remember I was looking for a place to post music online, to put songs online, and it came up. It came up some weird word, like Spotify, that I'd never heard of, and I had no idea what it was. And I look it up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, was that right? Well, I would, by the way, because of his fear, I would sit and recite the Lord's Prayer over and over to make sure that my energy was at a high level, and I was only going to talk to somebody at a high level. So that was kind of my promise to him is, okay, I'm going to recite the Lord's Prayer and make my intention to talk to some divine being who's only good, Mm-hmm. And so I ended up meeting using the tools. All of a sudden, a weird thing happened. I'm spelling out words. on the very first word, I began hearing, on the first letter, I began hearing what the word was. And it kind of turned on the clairaudience.
Yeah,
So,
and you are a musician as well. Just I see your
yes,
guitar in the background there.
yeah, there's a couple of them back there. If I could
Yeah,
get out of the way, there's a couple of them back. That's three.
you yeah, it looks like you have other. Yes, I see them. Oh,
Okay,
wonderful.
yeah,
Well,
just going to
we'll talk
stay.
about your music when we come back. We're going to take a quick break, but I want to really get into Amy Jo's story because when she began the clairaudience, she had a very special experience, and that's carried through into the creation of this Court of Atonement. And the Court of Atonement is now worldwide. How many people do you have at this
Oh,
point?
well, it's hard for me to say. I think we've sold about 40 to 50,000 books. And then, I mean, of the first original book, but like I said, it's hard to know for sure. There's 10,000 people in the Facebook group, and they're very interactive and fun.
And
So
you have
it's a great,
classes and you have an
and of
app. We're going to get
classes.
into
Yeah.
that too. But first, we're going to take a quick break. And you're listening to Making Life Brighter Radio. You can go on YouTube and find us. You can go to Voice America and find us. I encourage you to share because this show is going to be really special. Amy Jo is going to talk about the app. She's going to talk about the founding principles of her work and what this is and how this can help you. And trust me, it's holiday season. So there's lots of room for this in family gatherings or prior to or post. So we'll be right back. You're listening to Making Life Brighter Radio. And we're going to have more with Amy Jo Ellis. She is the founder of Court of Atonement. And we'll be right back. Welcome back. You're listening to Making Life Brighter Radio, and we're here live today with Amy Jo Ellis, and she's the founder of Court of Atonement, and she was talking about her journey into clairaudience and how she could hear spirit clearly and be accurate in her the voice that's coming to her from the spirit world. And so, Amy Jo, tell us more about how you came into your gift and how you translated that into the Court of Atonement.
Okay, well, like I said, all of a sudden I could begin to hear an answer. So I began asking questions and just asking constant questions and then writing down whatever I heard. So it became a thing for me, like all day on. I was obsessed with it, going in and asking questions and writing down the answers, talking to these higher consciousness. And I knew it was higher consciousness because they use words I have no idea what they mean. And then I look them up and they're exactly right. I'm like, oh, this is so wild. And it became a game and really fun. So whenever I would have a problem or any kind of issue would come up, I would just go in, ask my guides, write down what I heard. I want to demystify this for people a little bit because we get a feeling that, like before I could hear, I thought that it was like this, like you hear it in the room, like it's really clear, but it is not. It's a thought. it's you're thinking it rather than hearing it with your ears. To me, it comes in like more like a sound from the back of my neck or in my head or someplace else rather than in your ears.
Well,
And
people often say, though, how do they know the difference? How do you know who's speaking to you?
well, I clear my energy just to make sure all the time. So you can just say, I'm raising my vibration. I'm raising my vibration to the level of divine guidance. I'm raising my vibration to the level of divine guidance. And your intent to do that will shift your energy to this higher level. And so that should help you if you're like, oh, I don't know if it is, just start repeating that and then ask the question again. And you'll notice that like where you heard it come from will change as well. If you changed guides.
As you said that, this illumination kind of came up behind you in your field of your auric field.
Okay. Yeah. Well, good. So yeah, I would clear my energy and get really high. Well, I asked one day, it was my son's birthday, and the phone was ringing off the hook, and it was my family calling to wish our son a happy birthday. And my husband just said, he goes, I love that your family calls, but he goes, nobody in my family does anything like that. We never, we don't do anything like that. And there had been a real kind of a rift in the family. Something had happened, and they hadn't talked in years. And so I went to the computer and I asked, and I want to say at the time, I asked my guide, and his name was Abraham. And people always ask me, is it the same Abraham as Abraham Hicks? And his answer is yes and no. It's the original Abraham that she met, and that her Abraham is just the conglomerate name for everyone that she talks to. And this was specifically him. And he's not always my guide either. But he was for a very long time, very much on top of me, giving me, rooting lessons. But anyway, so I asked Abraham, I said, what can I do to solve the conflict in my husband's family? What can I do to help put that family back together? And he said, place their souls into a court of atonement, ask to analyze their timelines and resolve any and all conflicts between them. I'm stenographing, writing this down, and I'm like, court of atonement? What in the world does that mean? And of course, I didn't ask Abraham. I just jumped off and Googled it and tried to find a human answer for it, and nothing came up. And so then I'm just looking at the word atonement, and I could remember Yom Kippur and the Day of Atonement, and I'm like, okay, I'm non-religious, so was raised not agnostic, non-religious. And so I'm looking at atonement with no idea what does that mean. And he said, let's just look at the words for a minute. He goes, the word court, that's a place to settle differences. And he said, and atonement, just look at the word. If you separate it, it says at one-ment. It's putting it all back to one, back to wholeness. And I said, okay, I can understand that. So I did what he suggested, and I put each of his family members in, and it went like, I put my husband, first, middle, and last name, his mother, first, middle, and last name, his father, first, middle, and last, his brothers and sisters. I didn't know their middle names, and I still used them because that's what claircognizance does when you know what you just know. And I put all their names in, and I typed it all out. My husband, when he looked at the list later on, he's like, is that my brother's middle name? And we called his mother and asked, and it was. So,
well, what when you say put it in?
So I just say place.
Into?
So you say, okay, I state your name, place this person into a full court of atonement. And so we're saying, I bring in this person into a full court of atonement. I bring in that person, and we brought it all in, and
just by verbally saying this.
Just by verbally saying it, I asked to analyze their timelines and resolve any and all conflicts between them. And then I just kind of let it go. I didn't really think about it anymore. I just let it go. On Ken's birthday, all 5 of his family members called and wished him a happy birthday.
Beautiful.
And it was so like 6 weeks later. And he's like, you don't think that weird shit that you did had anything to do with it, do you? And I went, you don't think it didn't, do you? So it's
what makes it work? What is it that Abraham said to you that
he said
that makes this actually kind of come to pass?
He said that the soul, the souls, they're in a realm that they don't have time and they don't have space. You can connect to them just like your in Idaho, I'm in Washington, your listeners are all over, and yet they're hearing us live right now in this moment. We're not in the same room, but we're very much are. And
Right.
so the souls can all connect from wherever they are in the moment, and they can discuss what's going on and understand what happened. He said that forgiveness has a recipe. It has two ingredients. The first ingredient is understand what happened, and the second one is accept that reason. And so you can see how forgiveness and acceptance works together, like in a movie scene where the wife has set the table and she's put candles and she's put everything. And then it goes flash forward an hour later, the candles are burned down. He didn't show up. The food's untouched. And she's on the phone and she's like, he's never done anything like this. I'm just so worried. And then 4 hours later, she's remembering how her first boyfriend cheated on her. And she's like, if that SOB has done blah, blah, blah. And she's all mad. Now she's got all this anger about what she's told herself has happened. In the moment that he walks in the door, it can go two ways. So if he walks in the door and he goes, honey, there was a terrible accident. And she's like, oh my God, are you okay? In the moment of a breath, that energy's gone. It's no longer anger at all. She understood what he said and she accepted that instantly. There was no more anger. What happened? So if he came in the room and he said, honey, I'm sorry, I totally forgot. I went out drinking with the guys and lost track of time. She may not accept that reason.
Right.
She might decide to continue to be angry. But if you put them
But
in
that's a choice too.
Right. But if they put them in a court of atonement, the court of atonement has to resolve the reasons that she's angry. And it shows her at the soul level that he almost got fired. He had a really bad day at work and almost got fired. And his friend said, hey, don't take that energy home to your wife. Let's go out and have a drink and we'll talk about it. And so he did it out of like the goodness of his heart instead of just being,
If only everybody were like that.
Right. And
there's plenty of people that aren't like that. And this
Right.
also works to help them where their rogue behavior is out of bounds and they can't kind of pull it back in.
Yeah, usually that out of bounds kind of thing comes from some kind of a memory that they don't want to think about, and they get into the habit of trying to drown it out. So
that's a good point. Yes.
Yeah.
So you've developed an app for this. Let's talk about that really quickly so people can follow along. And you can download the app both on Android and iTunes,
and Apple, yeah,
right?
Apple Store.
It's a tremendous app, and it's so cool because you can look up a symptom with it, sort of like, remember Louise L. Hay's book, and you can look up symptoms. Well, this is a similar situation with her app, but you can also put in a random number if you're feeling number-wise, and you can pull up things, and you can do speed calls. So let's talk about that.
Okay, yeah, well, with the app, I love to do things like Louise L. Or no, I don't even know who her name. Doreen Virtue years ago had that. Doreen Virtue years ago had the book, The Angel Numbers.
Yes.
And so I had that in my Kindle. And as I'd go to sleep, I'd say, do you have any messages for me? And I'd pick a number from 1 to 1,000 and I'd see what the message of that number was.
Cool.
And so I got in the habit of doing that. And then I got to thinking, if I had the ability to do that with the Court of Atonement stuff, it would be really great to be able to find where an issue is and get some work on it. So I just started putting it together. People were coming into the Facebook group and they'd ask me, hey, what do you do? What do you want to do for, liver problems? And I think Louise L. Hay says that liver is anger. Mm-hmm. And my guides show it to me differently. They show it as more fear than anger, but they show it like a dog that's going viciously after somebody. And they're like, why is the dog doing that? Because it's afraid.
Right.
And so that the anger is kind of coming from fear. And so I had my guides kind of lead me through what they would do. And then I had fun double checking to see what did Louise L. Hay say about this, and also Ina Segal. And I kind of double checked after I did them. Then I double checked and I went, okay, what can I learn because they're different? What can I learn from what they did, and how can we incorporate like the best of all of the world? And so I really tried to bring something that had that was pretty cohesive of everything that was wrong might be able to be in there. And so if you
Well,
get it
one leads to another, just so people
right.
know. You can go into one and kind of find your way into another. We're gonna have to take a break in just a minute, but go ahead, Amy.
Oh, that's okay. I just was going to say that I took that idea and I putting it into the app. I have it at the top. It tells you there's I think 297 calls in there, so you have to pick a number between 297. And I will start adding more because I aim for that 1,000. I really am.
Well, I'm sure it'll be coming to you as an inspiration for sure because it's very comprehensive and it's a great thing to have on hand because when you're feeling crummy, like you can hear that I'm still getting over the flu I had. I had influenza A and then it walked into walking pneumonia. It's really beautiful. So I was doing this on my back for everything I could remember to do as I was using her technique. And it did help. So there's quite a bit of clearing that happened instantly in using that. And it's a wonderful technique. So when we come back from break, we're going to get into actually how this works and what it's doing and some of the more, let's say, popular things that she lands on with this and how people are trying to resolve these things. I have this beautiful landscape around. I don't know if you can see this or not, but I'm going to show you my view of from the studio, how beautiful this is. And there's eagles out there and blue herring just went by. So that has to mean something, right?
Oh yes.
Well, you're listening to Making Life Brighter Radio. Today we're talking about Court of Atonement with Amy Jo Ellis, and you can download her app on the Android and iTunes store. And we'll be right back. Stay tuned. We have much more for you. It's going to get exciting. We're listening to Making Life Brighter Radio, and I am welcoming you back to today's beautiful show in snowy Idaho and all over the world. I am proud to be here with you again on Voice America Live, and today we have special guest Amy Jo Ellis, who is the founder of Court of Atonement, and you can find that app on all digital outlets. And Amy Jo is not only a musician, she is a channel, she's a guide, she's a teacher, and she's an inspiration to those that are learning to heal, and they are healing with the use of her app and her system. And the Court of Atonement resolves conflicts at a soul level. And like it says here on the site, which reduces stress and allows the body to heal itself. The Court of Atonement works because our souls exist in a realm without time or space. We can ask our souls to meet in a court of atonement, like she discussed in the previous segment, where they discuss the problems beyond the constraint of human emotions. And once the souls understand what happened, relief can be felt in the physical body. Now, this is instant. So, Amy Jo, take it away. Tell us what you see most often and how this gets resolved. Give us an example.
Okay, well, one of the things that you might even find fascinating is that my guides began to show me that if I have a client telling me their name, I can hear a melodic movement. So Amy Josepha Richards Ellis, I would hear that Richards, that melodic drop, and they're saying that's a timeline in that person's life. And when that drop is where a conflict happened or an accident happened or they moved or something major happened, that they can feel this, that there's something that needs to be healed there. That's a clue for me to find something that needs to be healed for them. Looking at their life as a timeline, the closer to the, like, if I started out with Amy Josepha Richards, I'd know it was right at birth. So melodically, you can hear that drop in notes. So like I said, it's a musical outline. And so I would go in and look into these people's lives and say, okay, then I just pick a number and say, okay, what year did this start for them? And I'll say, okay, what happened for you around the age of 8? So they've got a money problem. They've got, they can have a money problem. They can have a problem with a relationship. They can have a major health issue, especially the health issues. Listen to those melodics. Where do you have unhealed stuff in your life? And once you pinpoint, you say, okay, at what age was I when this happened? And so it'll come up and say, oh, that's when my family moved from one city to the next, and I had no friends at school, and it took me forever. And so all these different things will be the basis of what's causing an illness or a money block. One person, they bought a house. Their family had like gotten a windfall, and they bought a house that they couldn't afford, and they moved to a really nice neighborhood, which seemed like a really great thing. But for the kid, they had come from having nothing, and the other people, the kids at school, treated them like dirt. And then when they moved, because they couldn't afford the house, it really caused issues. So we just put the person in a court of atonement with their family and bring in the kids at school. We didn't have to name them, but the people who caused them has to resolve the conflicts between them. When I'm working with people, you can hear it in their voice. They'll be like, I had one lady, and her voice she's like, oh, I don't like blah, 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 blah. And you could hear that anger and that rasp in her voice. And that was her voice. I'd heard her for like 6 months coming into my classes, and she talked like that. And I did some work with her over an event at Christmas where she didn't get a present and her sister did. And once we cleared that energy out, she said, oh, that feels so good. And her voice changed, and we all went, huh? Her voice completely changed. The constriction
on her whole body changed in that second, right?
Yeah, she came back 2 weeks later, and there was no sign of that voice, that she'd been sounding like that for months. And so emotional upsets are the root of it all.
It is. Boy,
it's the root of all the problems, all the illness. I swear it's behind it all. And if you can get in and use the Court of Atonement, is it okay with you if I share with your listeners, have them try it?
Sure, absolutely.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, so just to try to give them hopefully they're interested in this. Think about someone that you have had a major conflict with. Think about that person for a moment.
Oh, that's easy.
Right. And
we all have that.
And so can you close your eyes and see them and notice what expression they have on their face? And notice, if you were looking at you, what expression you would have in your face looking at them. So just kind of notice this whole energy there. And now just fill in the blanks with me. And I want you to put in as much of your name as as much of their name as you know. So we start out with, I state your name. So and you'd say your full name, first, middle, and last. Place myself and say your name again, because we're saying, this is me. I'm starting this, and it's for me. So
I, Winifred Adams, place myself, Winifred Adams,
into a full court of atonement.
With,
and don't say their name out loud. Everybody else can say the person's name out loud, but since she's on air, no, don't do that.
Okay.
And now bring in as much of them and say, the person I know as might even help us more.
That's a good one. The person
I know as, because we may not know their name. So now say, I ask to analyze our timelines and resolve.
I ask to analyze our timelines and resolve
any and all conflicts between us.
At
their points of origin.
Right.
I ask for amenable dissolution of this energy.
I ask for amenable dissolution of this energy. Uh-huh.
All right. And that's it. We're just going to let it go. And
So
but
what
right
happens?
now,
What's taking
so
place
one
in that
soul
moment?
is talking to the other soul and saying, what happened here? And if they did bad, they'll go, oh, I'm sorry. And they begin to apologize to the soul. And so they I got the joy of listening in on one, and we're not supposed to listen in, that they wanted me to know what happened. And it sounded like a court of law. It was like, you have been charged with derelict of responsibility. You have been charged with, it was like, what am I hearing? And then they said, how do you plea? And they said either guilty, not guilty, or guilty with probable cause. And so anybody who said they were not guilty or guilty with probable cause got a life review to see it from the other person's perspective. And they could
Now that
feel the
doesn't happen
wrong.
consciously to them, right? That's
No,
happening at the
nothing.
soul
It's
level or
just
in the sleep
totally,
or something else, right?
it's at their soul level. And once the soul feels it, it brings that information back to the body.
Fascinating. Wow.
Right. And so the
Wow.
body, the conscious mind has no idea. They well, I shared
But you
this
can
with.
feel it.
Oh,
But
you can feel it
right
right.
away,
So
right?
if you, so I'd like everybody to close their eyes and look at the person and see if they notice a change in the way that that person feels or that they feel while looking at that person.
What if the person is so stubborn that
Yeah.
the soul just can't penetrate into their being, into the body? Like you
Okay.
can see
So
this. I can see the change in the, say the soul or the
yeah,
ethereal body.
let's
But
try let's try putting them in a court of atonement. So I state your name,
I, Winifred Adams,
place myself and that person again,
place myself, Winifred Adams, and
and said into a full court of atonement
into a full court of atonement.
for the purpose of
I have chills.
optimization.
I have chills right now. My
Oh,
whole body
okay.
is chilled for the
Oh,
purpose of
good.
optimization
Of divine life force energy connections.
of divine life force energy connections. Okay.
So we're putting them back to the way they're supposed to be.
Ooh,
And
that's
now
good.
that energy will have a better chance at putting them in. But what I taught in that first paragraph, that's all I had for about 10 years. So it works miracles sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't. But it does it so much enough that people go, no, it worked here, it worked here, it worked here. Didn't work on that one. And when it
Do
doesn't
you
work,
think that's karmic though?
when it doesn't work, it's usually because we don't want to forgive.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so, yeah, when we don't want to let it go. So I sometimes say, ask to resolve all reasons I'm not willing to forgive this.
Love that. Yes, love
Yeah.
that. And I have to say, within this app, you all need to get the app. I mean, just go look up the app. You can look up the website later and see all the classes and everything that she offers. But to get the app is sort of like your tool in hand. And one thing leads to another. That's what I love about it. And you give the suggestions at the bottom of what are called speed calls, though I don't know where to find them. I've just kind of been
Okay.
sorting around. So,
Okay. Well, the speed calls were delivered in classes where I taught what I've created this year. And then I've kind of stopped creating more speed calls because people, they just want me to create a speed call and not ever do any of the work themselves. And so I kind of had to back off. But the
I hear
speed
you,
calls are made to make it easier. So we have restoration of self, and the speed call is, if you place yourself in a court of atonement for the purpose of restoration of self, it's trying to take your energy back from where you've sent it off.
that's great.
From where you've sent it off, from where you've gotten in fights and it's lingered there. I don't like the idea of it being stolen from us or anything like that. We more or less go, no, I just leave a part of my with you mad. And so we're bringing our energy back to ourselves, and it's helping us to be centered.
Yeah,
And
that's the restoration of self. Now,
yeah,
I
restoration
have
of
a
self.
I printed out something here. It's called Putting the Soul Back in the Body. Now, this is a very interesting concept. Speak to this, please. What is
Okay.
this?
All right. Well, my guides were telling me that that the body. I don't even know. Let me see if I can figure this out. Let me get a little guidance here. For the worksheet that you looked at, that started because there's a healer by the name of Raymond Grace. He's a dowser that lives in Virginia, and he calls himself a hillbilly, but I call him a wizard. And he's trying to purify water. And he's been trying to put the spirit of water back into the water. But he found that if the spirit of greed was in the water, that the spirit of water couldn't go in. And so one day I'm watching a movie, and they're dealing with the, what is it, seven deadly sins, and greed is one of them. And so I started looking at all of the other deadly sins, which I wish I had. I wish I had brought my brain with me right now, because I should know them all. But at the moment, I'm just like, I don't remember any of them. But so we've got, well, it's greed and sloth and lust, and so all these other ones. I thought, well, if greed is a spirit, then what about these other things? Are they spirits that could also be?
Yeah, because
Our body is
murder,
70 some.
laziness, cheating, passion, cowardice, jealousy,
Our
etc.
body is, what is it? 57% water or something. It's pretty big.
Greater than that, even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this large number of water, if we've got these spirits in us, does that keep our soul from being able to go in? And I was surprised. Whoa, yes, it does. And so I'd always been taught by my guides that the soul kind of connects right in the front of the heart. So like within 2 or 3 inches of the heart. But sometimes I'll find people and their soul is connected way back off to the side. It's usually connected to the energy field, but it'll be sometimes pushed way out. And I'm like, what is that? And so my guides told me that if you've been in a serious car accident, or you've been in, even like I tripped and fell off the bottom step of my stairs, and I went, give me a minute, I got to put my soul back in my body, because it scared the spirit out of me.
Right?
So I was like, and they said that it can happen with electric shocks, even small ones. So
I'm sure it happens with 5G too on a regular basis right now.
Yeah, well, don't give power to what you don't want.
Right.
And so just make friends with 5G and then be fine with it.
Okay.
So, yeah, I was going to say, it seems weird, but I state our names, placed myself into a full Court of Atonement with 5G, asked to resolve any and all conflicts between us, to resolve any all reasons it's harmful.
To override it, essentially, with your spirit energy.
I asked to change it to be beneficial to my body.
I love that. And what you're saying is all these things that when I put that up there, like hatred, guilt, intolerance, stealing, murder, etc. When those things are in the way, then the spirit is sort of out there, or not quite fully into the body. So when you clear those things using this technique, then you actually have more spirit light in the body.
Right. And I was going to say, and it does, if it doesn't work right at first, it's still working at the soul level, and it's pulling it out. It just takes longer.
Interesting. I bet that depends on how many lifetimes are backed up. But we have to go to break. We're going to get into that and family lineages when we come back. This is really fun. Thank you. Amy Jo Ellis with Court of Atonement here on Making Life Brighter today. You can get the app. You can go and check out the website. She has classes. She has lots of tutorials. There's many, many different helping tools there. So look this up and download the app. It's amazing. We'll be right back. Thank you for listening. Welcome back. You're listening to Making Life Brighter Radio, and I'm your host, Winifred Adams, and Let It Snow. Today we're having Amy Jo Ellis on the show, and she is the founder of Court of Atonement. We've been talking to her about her gift and her channeled information, which is helping people across the world right now. So you can go onto the Court of Atonement website, you can download the apps, and she has books that are only $5 that you can get. And so, Amy Jo, welcome back. Tell us about your books.
Oh, yes, I was guided to write it down. They said, you're going to have to start writing it down. We have a mutual friend, and her name is Sage. And Sage was the one who was saying, you have to write this down. Your guidance is you have to push and you have to get this written down. So I wrote a little $5 download. I think it's about 60 pages long now. When I first wrote it, it was 8 pages long. And it just got to the chase, but then people had so many questions that I began answering the questions until it got long. But 48, I think they say it's a 23-minute read or something like that, because I use big font because I don't see that great with
You see
with
inside,
reading.
not outside
Right,
so much.
exactly. So it's easier for
Welcome
me
to the
to
world
read
of
it.
empaths.
That's it.
Yes, right? So tell us what you get as guidance today from Spirit for people this holiday season.
Yes, when I went in just a minute ago and asked that question, what came forward is to let people know that just because it happened in the past doesn't mean it's going to happen again. It's not going to, just because it, how did I say that? Just because it's in the past doesn't mean it's in the future.
Yeah, that's a powerful statement if you think about that. I mean, it's bringing us back to the now space, which is a theme on this show. You know that. We like to be in the now. However, sometimes things like what we talked about earlier in the last segment and the things emotionally that get in the way keep us from being in that now space. So what would they say to that?
Well, my first thought is that I like to tear it down. If I see something gonna happen, like I see, oh, this is, my family always fights around the dinner table. I hear that kind of thing all the time. Not my family, but other people say that. If I see, if I notice myself having those kinds of thoughts or have a vision of that, in my mind, I pretend that it's a sheet of paper and I rip it down. I go, no, I do not accept that. And I throw it into the Court of Atonement and ask to resolve it at its points of origin. And it's very unceremonious. Just, no, I don't accept that. Amy Jo Ellis, place this energy in a Court of Atonement, has to resolve it at its points of origin. This is a great technique to use if you are afraid of not being able to pay your bills. No, I do not accept this. I throw it in the Court of Atonement. And then try to see the problem solved. If it doesn't look solved, no, I don't accept it. I put it in the Court of Atonement to be resolved. And try to stop forecasting the negative, because our beliefs and our imagination create the future. And as long as our future is being created by the negative we believe it's going to be in front of us, we keep having that. So we have to kind of tear it down and get to where we feel really good about it. And then once you feel really good, you begin to manifest in the direction that you want.
Well, you're into, music and the sonic, I would call it mathematical formula to all this in a way, because you're talking about the name and the dip in the name and so on, and how that sort of resonated with you in the beginning, dating back to a certain time in the person's life. Now, it's interesting that this is all verbal. And you know how people see, like, put yourself in the violet flame and call in Saint Germain and you kind of burn it up. How is that different, let's say, than the violet flame? What does this do verbally speaking?
Well, for one thing, with the violet flame, I want to say is that the violet flame is taking this problem that you have right here and it's burning it up. But if this is coming from your great, great, great grandmother, you did not help her. But if you're asking to resolve it at its points of origin and it's coming from your great great grandmother, then it stops it in its tracks and it no longer patterns through the family lineage. It stops it from going to our children and continuing on.
And some of these are about family lineage. You actually write that
Right.
in there.
Right. I say ask to resolve the reason for this throughout my family, the entirety of my family lineages, because there are millions of them. There's not just, we say family lineage like it's one, but there's lines and lines and lines and lines of it that go and break off in every which direction, infinity, basically. So,
Amazing. And
so they,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, so they're adamant about adding that S on lineages.
Well, I can see
Right.
that because, we've lived multiple lifetimes and we're drawing that into this space. I think holiday time is a great time to reflect on this, actually. And it's a perfect time to, like you said in the exercise, maybe even look at the whole family, like the whole table of the family, and see what the faces are and put that in there, because if each person has multiple lifetimes, a whole family has even more. You're bringing
Right.
all of that to the table, and you're not sure how that's working out for everybody in the moment, right?
Right.
So it can be kind of a dissonant thing. But when you do this, you do feel the clearing. So what has been an example of really powerful healing with this?
Oh, um, one of my one of the first things that really made me take notice of it. It's written in the book. So I just kind of found it. My mom and I were using it, and I'll tell a little of that story quick. My mom said she noticed that things were going really well with my brother, and she goes, "Did you do something?" And I said, "Yeah, I put us in a I put him in a court of atonement as to resolve the conflicts between us." And she goes, "You need to write that down. I need to look at that." And so then she asked me, she said, "Do you think this will work for people who have died?" And my hair stood up. Yes, absolutely. And I said, "It even works better because they have no reason not to fix it.
Right.
We have free will and say, the soul says, nah, this is a lesson you got to learn." And so it keeps it. So it doesn't infringe on free
Time
will.
and space
It doesn't
also.
infringe on free will because the soul can always say yes or no.
I love that.
And
Yeah.
so anyway, I my mom, I woke up in the middle of the night and my grandfather was in the bedroom. And I was like, wow, I hadn't heard from him since I was 11. I said, "What can I do for you?" And he said, "Please tell your mother that thank you for the prayers." And he said, "Tell her I, he said, tell your father that I apologize. Things were not better between us when he was a little boy. Ask him to pardon me for that." And
Beautiful.
my grandfather was a Silver Star recipient. Those don't come with good stories. So you can understand why things were not better between him and my dad. So he, had trauma there. So I call him, I can't tell my dad because he doesn't believe any of this. So the next best thing is to call mom. And when I tell mom, "Hey, grandpa came through and he had this message," she goes, "Oh, I put your dad and his dad in a court of atonement yesterday."
Ah,
And so we got this, big
you got
validation.
affirmation.
Yeah, that we got this affirmation that it was working. And so that was the second time we really noticed it work. I don't know how much, if you got a second more. I had a friend whose father had Alzheimer's and had abandoned him when he was a child. And he'd only heard from him one time in years and years. And we put him in a court of atonement with his father, asked to resolve it. And the next day, his father called him, remembering what he had done, and apologized for what he was doing,
Well,
what he had
there we
done
have
to
it.
him. Yeah. And
Thank you so much, Amy Jo Ellis with the Court of Atonement. That's a beautiful story. I wish we had more time, but we have to close for today. We'll have Amy Jo back, but I really recommend that you go to the website, courtofatonement.com, and you download the apps. The app is really important because it's a tool that you can use, but you can check out more. You can read the books. And this is a beautiful story for this time of year, especially. And it's a tool that you can use and apply it all day long. And can you ever do it too much?
no, no,
Great.
no. You'll when they want to stop you, they'll just make you disinterested.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, everybody. And go ahead to makinglifebrighter.com and you can put your information in for last week's show. We have a special update about that. I really recommend that for people right now. It's a blessing. There's a blessing in that. So thank you, Amy Jo Ellis. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for your guides and your angels and all of your wonderful energy and your tools that you've downloaded and are safekeeping for humanity. So
Thank you so much for having me.
Go jolly, everybody. Have a wonderful holiday season. We'll see you next week right here on Making Life Brighter. And we'll have more exciting and amazing people for you all holiday. Thank you, Amy Jo. This is really a gift.